Good morning. I'm Clint Peck with Beef Magazine. We're here today with Mark Gardiner of Ashland, Kansas. Gardiner Angus Ranch was in the path of the February 17th wildfires that swept across 283,000 acres of Texas, Oklahoma, Nebraska, and Kansas. We've asked Mark to be with us here today to share his and his family's experience with those tragic events and how his family, his employees, the community around Ashland have responded in the aftermath of the fires. Mark, I really appreciate you being with us here today. I know this is a time when you've got 1,000 other things to be concerned about, so really appreciate your time.
Well, thank you, Clint. We'd really rather be talking about beef cattle and markets and all the opportunity that's out there, but this is where we live and this is what we're dealing with right now. And we're so thankful for so many people that have helped us across the agricultural community. So my job is to say thank you for all of us, and we go forward.
So Mark, I guess the first and most obvious question to ask is what were you doing when you first heard about the wildfires, and sort of what was your immediate response?
Absolutely. You know, this was on February 17th, so I guess that's approaching 2 weeks ago. And I was with Cattlemen doing some work, and I got the call about 11 o'clock that there was a fire in Beaver, Oklahoma. And unfortunately, Clint, we've seen this before, and we knew this day was coming for about a week because of the red flag warning and the winds. But on March 6th of 2017, it was very, very similar. We had been watching, and I even told somebody that morning, we have to get through today, and just because of the red flag warning. So at that point in time, and since 2017, and even before that, we had plans in place. But the Starbuck fire of 2017 was even larger than this one. So we've had an experience, but we went into a mode of moving cattle into safer locations. And Clark County, Kansas, for the most part, is all grass. We most of us have intermittent wheat fields and such, so we moved a lot of cattle to wheat and different locations, and just trying to prepare. And 3 of my men are on the fire department, so they were going to it, and they were telling us where it was. And you know, Beaver's roughly 50 miles away, and actually, interestingly enough, the fire came from Beaver back in 2017 also. But the winds were strong, 70 to 80 miles an hour. And we had been fortunate last year. I mean, from January till about May 1st, we had 0 rain. From May 1st, the rest of the year, we had double our normal rainfall amount. You know, we normally are 17 or 18 inches, and we had 34 inches in the summer and fall of 2025. So we had a great year for grass, and you know, we'll get into it, but there was lots of discussion on how you prepare and all that. Well, we've been doing lots of mowing and backburns and all those kind of things all those years, and the fire departments have also. But when you have a fire that extends 40 miles across and the wind's blowing 70 miles an hour, those things are not going to stop it. And we learned that in 2017, and we saw it again in 2026. But we saved a great deal of cattle. We saved a lot of structures by that preparation. And, you know, I joked with several of neighbors and colleagues, and perspective equals this time is better than last time. And so, and we had lots of help from lots of people, but the north half of the county did not get hit. So that was a blessing for our community. And many of those folks came to help us. But I'm using a lot of words to say it was windy, it was dry, and the conditions were right for what happened.
So that is a double-edged sword when you have a year where you have a lot of grass, you have the rain, you've got those forages growing, and then they dry up in the fall and sit there through the winter, and you do have a tinderbox. There's no question about it.
You know, and we've used rotational grazing my entire life, and we work through that, and you try not to take all of the grass. But we had the cattle, the spring calving cattle, were in locations that where they didn't have as much protein, say, as where the cattle on wheat were. And so, but that was to utilize that grass and to go there. But I've heard many armchair quarterbacks say, that we should have done all these things, and even say, well, producers that didn't leave as much grass didn't have the same issues. Well, actually, some folks don't have as much grass, but they got burned up too. And so
Sure.
I would suggest that this is an act of God, and we prepared the best we possibly could. And even though we lost some cattle, we saved nearly 1,000 head of cattle because we enacted our plan very, very fast and very efficiently across the ranch. And most of the people in the community were able to do that too, where the cattle losses occurred. And you're never all right or all wrong, Clint, because sometimes with the wind switching and new fires, the embers were, Beaver, Oklahoma to Ashland, Kansas. I mean, they were landing in Wichita, Kansas also. So where it's going to land next, you don't know. So sometimes you go the wrong way, but most of our choices, most of our plan worked out very, very well. The cattle that were lost, both for us and our neighbors, were in locations that were too far away to make it to those safe places, even though we were all trying to get them out of the way. Sometimes there's nowhere to go. But back to the armchair quarterbacks, I've heard all these things about what we should have done, and why don't you have row crops? Why don't you have, more of those things? Well, we live in the sandhills of southwest Kansas, and there's a reason that they burn the Flint Hills. They get twice as much rain, and they have rock underneath there. And we do some controlled burns and do extensive mowing to reduce that fuel load. But if you want us to farm all that ground up, I think there's a thing called the dirty 30s that we learn from. And so all these things come together to get better and to learn. But the people here on the ground have done very well, and we'll do better, and we'll continue to try to learn. But all the folks that tell us how we should have done it, that really wasn't possible. And we did pretty well, even though it was a tough day.
So you did lose some cattle. That's
Yes.
got to be the most devastating part of the fire.
Very much so. It's anytime I smell smoke, I get a little bit of PTSD, and I'm trying not to get emotional here, but we didn't lose any humans, and last time there was only one loss of life in our county, but I can still see those cows. I can still see those cows we were trying to save and trying to move, and I can still see how we weren't able to save them. And the toughest part of the aftermath is many of those cows that were still alive, their eyes and their mouth, they're just burnt out. And so we spent a couple days putting them down, and we still have some cows that we saved that aren't out of the woods. But our rules, Clint, are if they can eat and they can drink, we're going to give them a chance. And so as bad as it was this time, it was not near as bad as last time. And we're very thankful and we're very focused on the cattle that we have, and we'll go forward.
Mark, it seems like these days in our modern society, with all the technology, all the tools, everything we have, there's still something as primordial as a wildfire sweeping across the prairie that can affect us. And I get goosebumps thinking about it, Mark, that all the satellites and all the rockets and all the AI and all the computers and all the machinery just can't save us from that primordial beast of wildfires. They've been with us, and they're going to be with us, I guess.
I think when you think of an act of God, or you think of Mother Nature, it's a reminder of who's in charge. And many folks have asked me about, the wildfires. There's been wildfires every year of my life, Clint. There was wildfires. My dad passed away in 2015, born in 1931. So there were wildfires every year of his life. That's where we live. It's a little bit like we don't grow row crops out here because we get 17 or 18 inches.
Right.
It's dry out here. That's where we live. But when I think about what we can do better, and it's not a lot different in the beef industry. When you think about some of the things we've maybe lost in the beef industry is our husbandry skills, and not a lot of people are exceptional, but but we still have humans that are interacting with all of this. And both times these fires were started by, we'll just leave it at human caused sparks, human error. And so we have to live and we have to go forward. But twice in my lifetime, and I'm 65 now, so twice in my lifetime, those conditions came together to cause this widespread fire. And I'm not saying we can't learn and we can't get better, but when you look at what we have to deal with and where we live, and these wonderful grasslands, they're very good when it doesn't rain, and they're better when it does. But our interaction with that and how we get better is a continual process. And with all the technology and with all the knowledge, I mean, we knew, 3 hours in advance from when it hit,
Right.
Which I'm sure in my father's day, there's no way they could have known that as fast with cell phones and texts and everything else. So I think technology is wonderful. How we use it and how we apply it to the situation is always evolving.
Absolutely. So I guess now in the aftermath, I know there are people that will be watching this podcast, looking at this, wanting to know how they can help, because that's just the way we are. Do you have any direction or any advice for us on anybody out there that's somehow or another maybe can donate hay? I'm sure you need hay, other kinds of assistance. Where can people go to get more information on that?
This agriculture community is so wonderful. Last time hit us probably out of the blue more, and we hadn't dealt with it. And so people are so wonderful to want to help. They send all these different kinds of supplies, but we're probably blunter this time in that money and hay is the most needed item. Last time folks sent lots of fencing supplies, and
Right.
we have to rebuild those according to government specifications to get equip help, and so some of those materials that were sent do not qualify, and they're very, very generous. But to answer your question, Clint, the Kansas Livestock Association has a foundation and a fund that goes to all the afflicted people. The same thing with the Oklahoma Cattlemen's Association, and I'm sure Texas has that too. We have an Ashland Community Foundation here at Ashland, Kansas, and last time, and the Working Ranch Cowboys Association, all those people, our community and many other communities would not have made it without their help. And I've said this oftentimes, and even on the hay, I've got neighbors saying, well, I got enough. I go, it's a long time till next fall.
Yeah. Right.
When you don't have any grass until it rains. I mean, it's going to be a while. So that need will be present. But I think it's hard for us in agriculture to ask for help, but we have needed help in the past, and we need it again, and God has sent a lot of help with his good people.
And there's nothing wrong with asking for help and receiving help, because there's those of us out here that want to do what we can.
Absolutely.
So I would encourage anybody that has any inclination to give a hand, whether it's wherever it is, whatever state it is, whatever community it is, that they find a way to funnel that assistance to the people that need it on the ground.
And we're very thankful and we're very appreciative. And one of the things our community and many in American agriculture is we're pretty good at helping and giving it out. We're just not very good at accepting it. And so unfortunately, in the last few years, whether it's Anderson Creek or Starbuck, or, the Canadian Texas fire and some others,
Right.
We will pay it forward as many others have done. I mean, I've told lots of people that have called us, and I'm not trying to boast here, is like, well, you need to send it to this person or that person. And they'd say a nice adjective and said, nope, we're sending it to you. Don't you remember when you sent all this to us? And frankly, I don't. But I go, yes, sir. And I have a very good friend that said he was the extension agent in Hemphill County at Canadian Texas. And, part of the blessing is to let those, give versus just all the time wanting to give. I mean, you have to give them the blessing by receiving that wonderful contribution.
Right. I agree. Well, Mark, really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. You know, there's the hearts and thoughts of thousands and tens of thousands of people out there with you, with your family, your community, and everybody around you that we can help, and that's why we're here to help you tell your story and make sure that people understand that this is something, like you said, an act of God. We can't point fingers, but we can certainly look ahead and hope that better times are in front of us.
Well, we're so appreciative and we're so thankful, and it is a time to celebrate in the beef industry. I mean, I look at what you've done with your communications and beef and just all the, I mean, some of the things I do to take away the headaches is like, you know, read your articles, read, you know, Daryl Peel, read all Neville Spear, all those kind of things. I mean, this is exciting times. We have a demand-driven business with the greatest tasting protein in the world, and we're talking about a grass fire, but we have that ruminant animal that can convert that grass into that world's greatest tasting protein, and the world wants our product. So we're so thankful for that. I'm always bullish on beef, whether the best of times or worst of times. These are good times, and we'll go forward.
We will. We'll appreciate it again, Mark. Thank you very much. So yeah, we'll maybe circle back at some point in a little better time, and we'll talk more about the cattle business, Mark.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you for all you do, and thank you for the discussion. And you know, oftentimes, you know, we're pretty private and quiet, but I think we all know the way the news is today, and our community of agriculture needs to communicate within ourselves because nobody else is going to do that. So thank you all so much for making that happen.
All right. Thank you again, sir.
You bet.
For Beef Magazine, I'm Clint Peck. We've been with Mark Gardiner Angus Ranch, Ashland, Kansas, dealing with the aftermath of the February 17th wildfires, and we wish Godspeed to the Gardiner Angus Ranch, their employees, the community in dealing with the aftermath of this fire. Again, for Beef Magazine, I'm Clint Peck.